And Crystal, what do you like about reading?
I really like opening a book and getting that fresh new book smell and feeling the pages and holding that book in my hands. Andrew, what do you like about reading?
If a picture's worth 1,000 words, a book is like carrying around 80 pictures. That's corny. Everybody, welcome to the Goldilocks and the Three Cares podcast, the podcast where we take a look at what's too hot, what's too cold, and what's just right with a self-published work. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Crystal.
And what did we read this week, Crystal?
We read Gravity, which is the first book in the Gravity series by Abigail Boyd.
What is this book about?
This book is about a young woman named Ariel, and her best friend Jenna goes missing. So the following school year, she discovers that a lot of other young girls have gone missing as well, so she starts to investigate their disappearance. And as she does so, she starts to see ghosts.
So it's a mystery with a very supernatural flavor.
Yeah, definitely. It's almost a horror.
Ooh.
As well. There's a lot of elements of horror
So it's
in it.
very atmospheric.
Yeah, definitely, I'd say so.
Good. What did we find that was a little too hot with this book? What was there just too much of?
The boy, or what I like to call the boy drama.
The boy problem.
Which, I'm an old lady, so this could completely date me. But, we have the love interest who's this new student to a school. They meet, there's this immediate attraction between the two.
And it makes it sound like a Looney Tunes, just like boing, 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 boing.
Right. Yeah. Cupid with the bow and arrow, just shooting them right in the face.
Just floating as hearts fly off the top of their head.
And so there's this, he likes me awesome, but he's too popular for me, so I don't like him. Then, he worms his way into becoming her tutor. Chemistry is flying, everything's going wonderfully well. And then all of a sudden, his parents will not let them hang out together. Therefore, he wants nothing to do with her now, and her heart is broken. The end. Or at least of this book.
So what you're saying is that there was a very back and forth part of the relationship, but did you find that really contributed to the plot in this book? Like, the back and the forth is obviously something we need for the genre because that's what people are looking for. But was it woven in with the mystery of her friend's murder?
Not the mystery of the friend's murder. There were hints that there's something going on with his family and descendants from her family, but it's never explained in this book. It's something that I feel could have been saved for the second book, which I know goes more into their relationship.
Well, it sounds like the author Abigail was laying track for that particular mystery, which is coming in the next book.
It does. It's a bit of a cliche for me personally. I wasn't upset when I didn't react in the way that Ariel reacted when her love interest was no longer interested in her. Yeah. I was just A, expecting it, and then B, saying, that's it, it's done. Like, just drop him like it's... Not drop him like it's hot.
Well, drop him like it's hot. We would have to license that song in order to put that in here, but just everybody in the background, just start listening to that song for the rest here. Hey, one of the things that kind of stuck with me is I can speak to this particular relationship because I've been a 15-year-old boy in my past. And
have you now?
A long time ago. Uh-huh. Half my life ago. When you're into a girl and it's the boing, 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 you're into her. And there's nothing that parents or grandparents or, societal pressure or anything like that can really undo. So it's interesting to me that there was that back and forth.
Yeah, again, it's something that's done very often. I mean, look at Ross and Rachel. The back and forth. Are they? Will they? Won't they? So there's different ways to get the characters apart and bring them back together and keep them apart. This is just one of those ways of doing it, and that is the fact that the parents don't want them, has put their foot down and said, no, damn it.
Put their foot down. Hey, what did you find was too cold? What was there just not enough of in the book?
This is going to sound like I didn't enjoy the book, which is not the case. But
no, we very much enjoyed this book.
Yeah, it felt like nothing happened. We resolved, or the main problem is resolved, but there's sort of so much else going on that doesn't get resolved. And again, I think she's laying track for other books, but I found it a bit frustrating because some aspects were left assumed. We were never directly told about certain things. For example, it's sort of rumored that her grandmother may have these powers as well, but there's a mystery surrounding her grandmother.
And they never really get to that.
No, and she never really gets to it. So I think in this case, you can still lay track in the book that plot gets resolved in, and it would work better to simplify the story. Our favorite thing to say always is, in those big blockbuster movies like Spider-Man, for example, you start off with one villain, but then you end up with 10.
Yeah. Well, this has been a problem for many years. Like the first Batman movie with Michael Keaton, one bad guy. Second Batman movie, two bad guys. Third Batman movie, three bad guys.
Right.
It's just got to keep going, right? Like
you want to make it bigger and badder every time. So this felt like she was trying to make it big and bad just right away and introduce sort of everything that could potentially happen, which is great for the plot because it is very interesting. But I'd like to see more things resolved, because then it just drives me crazy after a while.
Yeah, and I guess there's one of three different reasons why this might have happened. I mean, first of all, it could be just a stylistic choice. Like, this is the direction she wanted to go in, and the very much the long form, drawing things out, it's kind of in vogue right now in television and movies and in books, but it's also part of the business model, right? Like, you don't make money off of one book. You make money off of writing a series of 5. And we understand and we respect that. The other thing is, it could be just, an accident. It could be something that she didn't mean to do. She meant to close these loopholes. And then the last thing I actually forget right now.
Well played. So we'll go with those two.
I'm going to knock off the final choice. So, is it a stylistic thing, or is it something that she kind of forgot?
I definitely think it was a stylistic thing. Yeah. Definitely. It's just, you look at a TV series, or if we even use an extreme example of someone like Mr. George R.R. Martin, where you just have a huge series, you can see how difficult that is. And I don't think it's any less difficult to do for a young adult book either. You have to resolve enough to satisfy the reader. It's a fine line. So you have to have a lot of beta readers and judge that for yourself. Am I giving enough information here to satisfy the reader? Because you also want them to read on as well. I
mean, that's the part of the mystery genre is, the mystery genre does very well because you buy it in the airport, you fly from New York to Los Angeles, it's 4.5 hours, you read the book, and then you close it and you say, I'm just going to pull a name out of a hat here. Mr. James Patterson, thank you very much. I enjoyed that book. It's done, closed, on to the next thing, but that's not quite what we had here.
Right. And again, I think you can leave one or two things open, but you really have to resolve the majority of those threads.
So what did we find the author got just right? What was fantastic about this book?
I loved her spooky scenes. So anything that had to do with creating an ambiance or creating this sort of chilling, creepy atmosphere, she was just great at that. And you could tell that she loved doing it because the tone changed in her writing. And it became really alive and really, really kind of scary. So it painted a great picture of exactly what Ariel was seeing and how scary it was for her.
We were talking about the book as you were reading it, and my question to you was, if there was a solid mystery to this, which there is, it's a solid mystery book at its core, why add the fantastical elements? And the answer is Abigail Boyd's good at it.
Right. It's fun to write for her. You can really, really see that. And with it's sort of like horror and crime and thrillers. You're always dealing with dead bodies. So to add that extra element of let's make this a little bit creepier, why not add that paranormal element?
Paranormal element. When you look at the anatomy of a really good tense scene and you tease it apart, what are some of the important elements that you need in there?
Ooh, that's a good question. There's a couple different things you can do, though, right? It depends on what you want.
Well, let's look at just Abigail. Like, what made for a really good, tense, paranormal scene in Gravity?
There's a lot of times it's what what you can't see.
Yeah.
What the character can't see. Either it's dark, there's a lot of, fog or whatnot. Noises work really well.
In TV and movies, because we're such visual, creatures, that's really easy to do.
Right.
Just you shut off the lights or you run a little bit of the fog machine. In a book, that's much harder.
Yeah, and in this particular book, because it's so easy for me to say what I would do. In this particular book, she used a lot of noise to, noise that only she, Ariel could hear, no one else could hear.
Mm-hmm.
Things where rooms in her own house would sort of turn against her, and normal light fixtures or door handles wouldn't work. And it's always creepy. Everyone at the back of their mind always has that fear of being locked in somewhere or having someone pop out of somewhere, at them. Those types of situations really add to the spooky, or help to add to the tension in the scene.
So if you like a mystery that has really good tension, the book is Gravity, book 1 in the series of the same name by Abigail Boyd. Who would you recommend reads this book?
I'd recommend this to if you really enjoy sort of younger YA. It's pretty clean. It is pretty spooky again in some places. If you don't like a lot of gore, you probably wouldn't like this book.
That's okay. Kids these days can take it, right?
I know. That's what I figure, right? But also, if as I mentioned with the love interest, if you're an old lady like me, it may be a little bit much for you.
And where can we find this book?
This book is available on Amazon.
And if people want to find us, where could they find us?
There's a bunch of places. We are on Twitter at everythingstemp.
Check.
everythingstemporary.com.
Check.
iTunes.
Oh boy, check.
And that's it.
That's it. Oh, yeah, 3.
Sorry. 3 checks for you.
Everybody, there's your 3. Everybody, I hope you enjoyed the Goldilocks and 3 Cares podcast. I'm Andrew, who can only count to 2.
And I'm Crystal. Until next time, keep reading. Who's going to be like, so Andrew, how many fingers am I holding up?
3.5.
How many points did you try and make?
2.
Right.
Somewhere my grade 1 teacher, Madame Marchand, just stood up suddenly and went,
no, you woke her
can't count.
You woke her from a coma.
In my defense, I learned how to count in French.